The wonderful afternoon. Laura could not imagine a country with so many railroads, nor one so rich that nearly everybody could ride on trains. But she did not really try to imagine it, because now they had come to high ground where they could see the men working at the cut and the fill. Right across the prairie swell where the trains would run, the teams with plows and the teams with scrapers were cutting a wide ditch. Back and forth went the big teams pulling the plows, and round went the teams hauling the scrapers, all steadily moving in time with each other. But here the scrapers did not go in a circle. They went in a long, narrow loop, into the cut and out again at one end, and at the other end they went over the dump. The dump was a deep ditch at the end of the cut, and crossways to it. Heavy timbers shored up the sides of this ditch and made a flat platform over the top of it. There was a hole in the middle of this platform, and earth had been graded high on each side of the ditch to make a road level with the platform. Out of the cut came the teams steadily walking one behind another, pulling the loaded scrapers. They went up the grade to the top of the dump, and they went across the platform. They passed over the hole, one horse walking on each side of it, while into the hole the driver dumped the scraper load of dirt. Going steadily on down the steep grade and around, they went back into the cut to fill the scrapers again. All the time, a circle of wagons was moving through the dump, under the hole in the platform. Every time a scraper dumped its load, a wagon was under the hole to catch the dirt. Each wagon waited till 5 scraper loads had poured down into it. Then it moved on, and the wagon behind it moved under the hole and waited. The circle of wagons came out of the dump and curved back to climb up over the end of the high railroad grade that was coming toward the cut. Every wagon, as it passed over the grade, dumped its dirt and made the grade that much longer. The wagons had no wagon boxes. They were only platforms of heavy planks. A great cloud of dust rose all the time, up over the sweating men and the sweating horses. The men's faces and arms were black with sunburn and dust. Their blue and gray shirts were streaked with sweat and dust, and the horses' manes and tails and hair were full of dust, and their flanks were caked with muddy sweat. They all went on steadily and evenly, circling into the cut and out while the plows went back and forth, and circling under the dump and back over the end to the fill and under the dump again. The cut grew deeper and the fill grew longer, while the men and teams kept on weaving their circles together, never stopping. "They never miss once," Laura marveled. "Every time a scraper dumps, there's a wagon underneath to catch the dirt." "That's the boss's job," Pa said. "He makes them keep time just like they were playing a tune. Watch the boss, and you'll see how it's done. It's pretty work." On the rise above the cut and on the end of the fill and along the circles, the bosses stood. They watched the men and the teams and kept them moving in time. Here they slowed one team a little. There they hurried another. No one stopped and waited. No one was late at his place. Laura heard the boss call out from the top of the cut, "Boys, move along a little faster." "You see," Pa said, "it's nearing quitting time, and they'd all slowed down a little. They can't put that over on a good boss." The whole afternoon had gone while Pa and Laura watched those circles moving, making the railroad grade. It was time to go back to the store and the shanty. Laura took one last long look, and then she had to go. On the way, Pa showed her the figures painted on the little grade stakes that were driven into the ground in a straight line where the railroad grade would be. The surveyors had driven those stakes. The figures told the graders how high to build the grade on low ground. and how deep to make the cuts on high ground. The surveyors had measured it all and figured the grade exactly before anyone else had come there. First, someone had thought of a railroad. Then the surveyors had come out to that empty country, and they had marked and measured a railroad that was not there at all. It was only a railroad that someone had thought of. Then the plowmen came to tear up the prairie grass, and the scrapermen to dig up the dirt, and the teamsters with their wagons to haul it, and all of them said they were working on the railroad, but still the railroad wasn't there. Nothing was there yet but cuts through the prairie swells, pieces of the railroad grade that were really only narrow, short ridges of earth, all pointing westward across the enormous grassy land. When the grade's finished, Pa said, the shovelmen will come along with hand shovels, and they'll smooth the sides of the grade by hand and level it on top. And then they'll lay the rails, Laura said. Don't jump ahead so fast, Flutterbudget. Pa laughed at her. The railroad ties have to be shipped out here and laid before it's time for the rails. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is a railroad, nor anything else worth having. The sun was so low now that each prairie swell began to have its shadow lying eastward, and out of the large, pale sky the flocks of ducks and the long wedges of geese were sliding down to Silver Lake to rest for the night. The clean wind was blowing now with no dust in it, and Laura let her sunbonnet slip down her back so that she could feel the wind on her face and see the whole great prairie. There was no railroad there now, but someday the long steel tracks would lie level on the fills and through the cuts, and trains would come roaring, steaming and smoking with speed. The tracks and the trains were not there now, but Laura could see them, almost as if they were there. Suddenly she asked, Pa, was that what made the very first railroad? What are you talking about? Pa asked. Are there railroads because people think of them first when they aren't there? Pa thought a minute. That's right, he said. Yes, that's what makes things happen. People think of them first. If enough people think of a thing and work hard enough at it, I guess it's pretty nearly bound to happen, wind and weather permitting. What's that house, Pa? Laura asked. What house? Pa asked. That house, the real house, Laura pointed. All this time she had been meaning to ask Pa about that house standing by itself on the north shore of the lake, and she had always forgotten. That's the surveyor's house, Pa said. Are they there now? Laura asked. They come and go, said Pa. They had almost reached the store, and he went on. Run on along home now, Flutterbudget. I've got work to do on the books. Now you know how a railroad grade's made. Be sure to tell Mary all about it. Oh, I will, Pa, Laura promised. I'll see it out loud for her every bit. She did her best, but Mary only said, I really don't know, Laura, why you'd rather watch those rough men working in the dirt than stay here in the nice clean shanty. I've finished another quilt patch while you've been idling. But Laura was still seeing the movement of men and horses in such perfect time that she could almost sing the tune to which they moved.